DrydenWire.com. I'm Ben Dryden, and welcome to episode 3 of the Brian Cole story. Brian, I believe we left off, you were in, I can't remember where at 17. Was it the psychiatric ward or was it Lincoln Hill? You were somewhere there and you were talking. Lincoln Hills, and you were talking about, I think you left us off at something about the Army or military or something like that. How did that come to be?
Well, I don't really know how it came to be. I think my mindset was just to the point of hating people so much and hating authority so much. Yeah, hating authority. Let's go to the Army, right? And
doesn't really make sense. But okay.
And I just had it in my mind that, man, I can go and legitimately kill people and use guns and have hand grenades and all this other stuff. So I think that's what was going through my mind at the time.
Well, that's interesting. Like so far, and we've talked about a lot of things, but I don't recall anything that you were discussing, like you had a fascination with guns or it was never like about murder stuff. So using people. Yeah. So what was this? How did that help me understand that part where it's, wow, I could go and like legally kill people. So far, that really hasn't been a theme.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the mindset of a criminal and a druggie. You just don't know what you're thinking. Nothing makes sense. And
fair point.
I did have a fascination with guns. I mean, the one thing my dad did do is he grew up, he was a hunter and a trapper, and I was always using guns, and I loved guns.
That's right. Okay, so how'd you do that? You just call the Army? Did you stop in?
Yeah, so I went to the recruiter, and so I had to go to Minneapolis, St. Paul or something, this hotel, and that's where you go and you get the physical done. So I went to get that done, and it was nearing my 18th birthday, and my uncle Elvin lived close by, and he told me to stop by on the way. And on the way there, he gave me a 1969 Dodge Charger. It was my very first car.
What?
Yeah, it gave me a 1969 Dodge Charger for my birthday. So I was pretty stoked about that. I'm like, oh man, I got to go in the Army. I got this cool car, and so I went and did the physical, and they found out that I had a hernia and couldn't join with that. So they said that I had to have a operation, and they would pay for it. So I went and got the operation, and don't remember how long it was to heal up or whatever. Went back past the physical, and so here I am. I got this cool car, but I got to go into the military. So I signed up. I was 12 Bravo combat engineer, where you build bridges and then blow them up.
Awesome.
Flew down to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for boot camp, and I was there. It was 2 weeks before basic training was going to be over, and we started AIT, and I got called in the lieutenant's office, and he told me that they had found out that I lied on my application, that I didn't have any felonies as a juvenile, and because of that, they were going to have to let me go. And they didn't want to let me go because obviously, again, whatever I was involved with, whether it was selling drugs, robbing people, whatever, I had to be the best. And I was the best in the Army. And he said, you've expert in everything you've done. You're a good soldier. We don't want to lose you. And I said, well, listen, man, the recruiter told me not to write that down, that it didn't matter. And he said, well, we'll look into it because we don't want to lose you. So a few days later, he called me back in. And he said, yeah, unfortunately, you had a civilian recruiter. There's nothing we can do about it. So we got to let you go. And so I got a general discharge under honorable conditions. And this was probably another key point, pivot point in my life where my hatred for authority grew even bigger, because everything was everybody else's fault, not mine. And sure. Of course, I blamed that on them, and it wasn't my fault for lying on the application, even though the recruiter told me to. So,
real quick, how long was this period? 12 weeks? 6 weeks?
It was, I think basic was 12 weeks. So it was 10 that I made it through.
10 weeks in. Drugs involved in this time?
Yeah, you're not supposed to drink on base and stuff, but most of the guys drank, and they would take us off base, and of course, wherever there's drink, there's drugs down there. So yeah, I was still
okay. I was just wondering if this is a time of your life where I feel like maybe now I can put all this other stuff behind me. It was the bullying, and it was the smoking, and it was the this and the that, and the using people. I finally feel like, because if I recall, remember episode 1, that first cigarette that represented, being accepted. And you're accepted into this, and man, this is now, I think this is going to change my life.
Yeah,
did you feel that way at all, or was it, no, I really don't care about that stuff. I was still doing it even when I was in basic.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, no thoughts.
Okay, so then you're kicked out, but politely. of the
Right.
Army. Then what do you do?
Well, I got into more trouble. I said that there's only two friends I remember having in my childhood, Kevin Cahoon and Steve Rothbauer. And me and Steve, I don't think I really did anything with Kevin after school time and all that, but Steve was in my life for quite a while. And Steve was he was a friend since day one, and I used him, and his family had money, and he wasn't the brightest guy. Sorry, Steve. Used to sell him a lot of pot that wasn't pot and pills that weren't really pills, and just used the guy for his money. So anyway, got in a lot of trouble with that car. I remember I used to hang out at London Hill Skate Land. I used to do a lot of roller skating because that's where the girls were. They had all-night skate-a-thons and stuff. And one night I picked Steve up. Steve was a drinker. I was not. And had some liquor bottles in the car. And it was wintertime. And I was heading down the side road to the skating rink with Steve. And a car pulled out from behind us and went right in front of us. I had brand new fog lights on my car. Back in the day, you put all that stupid stuff on your car. And because of the way he cut in front of me, I pulled off to the right and went right into the snowbank and took one of my fog lights out. Of course, I was ticked that someone did that to me. And so I'm like, get in the car, man, we're going. And we chased these dudes all the way from Eau Claire to Duran. I had no idea where it was going. It was dark out. All I know is that, I was bumping up. I had the Chargers had them big rubber bumpers, and I was bumping into the rear end of their car and going up alongside, and Steve was whacking their window with liquor bottles. And they finally went into Duran and went down this alleyway and into the back parking lot of a bar. And I'm out, and Steve's out, and I'm punching the window. I'm yelling at these guys trying to get in the car, just some young punks too, like myself. And some people were out behind the bar smoking. They're like, "Hey, get out of here! We're calling the cops." And I'm like, "These dudes, tricked my car up." And so as soon as they said that, I'm like, "Get in the car." Well, I had no idea where I was, so I'm driving around trying to find a way out, trying to find the road we came in on. And I think I found the road, and I started heading out, and pretty soon here come the Cherries behind me. And even though it was only a 318, one of the things my dad did was race cars, and he taught me how to hop up cars and was all hopped up. The speedometer went to 140 on there, and I had her about 138 after the cops were chasing me. And we're looking, Steve's kind of freaking out a little bit. I'm like, "Man, we got to find a place to turn off here and go down the side road." And I couldn't find nothing. So after probably, 10 miles, man, I finally pulled over, and the cop came up behind me, and I thought I was done. And he's like, "Do you realize how fast you were going?" And I said, "Yeah, 138,
I got it
man."
about 138 on the straight, yeah.
Yeah. He goes, "What's going on?" I told him what happened. And this was the only time in my entire life that I ever got let off the hook. I don't remember how it happened, but he goes, "If I wrote you a ticket, you'd lose your license and I could put you in jail and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "You guys get out of here and go home." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm gone. So that's how it was. I was just, whatever time there was between that and the prison, it was nothing but trouble. And so now this is the point where I was out, after winter was over, I had moved into a trailer home somewhere, and we were, me and a friend of mine named Scott Vance. I don't remember how we met, but he was like my best friend at that time, and I just hadn't met him. And he was another pothead like myself, and so we were off in the woods with our backpacks and buckets and stuff, and we were planting plots of marijuana all over in the woods. And so this is me and Scott. We're into the selling drugs together, and he didn't do so many of the hard drugs as I did. He was mostly just a pothead. But so also at this time there was a girl named Sherry, and I liked her. She was another one that went to church when my mom and dad forced me to go to church, and I always had a crush on her. We ended up getting together, and kind of like my wife now, we married within a couple of weeks. And she moved in with me and Scott. Scott was already living with me. So I married her. We were all living together.
18, right?
Yeah.
18 now?
Just 18.
Okay.
No. Yeah, just 18.
Okay.
And I think I didn't have a place to stay for a while. I moved in with her and her parents. Then we got another trailer home, and all three of us were living together. I had a job at Sears while I was living with her from 4:30 until 8 in the morning to clean up the big store before it opened up, which was just another opportunity. This is one of the few times that I started stealing from businesses. I'd go in there while, just the manager or whatever, and maybe one other person that came in early was in there, and they were off in the break room. So I'd back my car up to the door, pop the hood, and I'd start just loading the trunk up. And I did that like a couple times a week. I stole so much stuff from Sears. And so that's how it was. So I ended up marrying Sherry, moved into this trailer together in Eau Claire. And, not only were we selling drugs, but, again, I was slowly building this badge of honor, and I wanted people scared of me. And we'd go out and we'd matter of fact, people would come over and pay us weed and money to go and take care of somebody if they had an issue with somebody. So just a lot of junk going on. This is when I don't know if we got kicked out of that place, and we moved into a place by a school. I never paid rent for any of these places. The landlords were, I think, too fearful of asking us for money because we always had, satanic stuff up on the walls, and just the people that were coming in and out of there, they didn't want to do with it. So we moved in there, and this was, I didn't really drink at all, but it was me and my wife's, I don't know, we had a gathering for celebrating our marriage after the marriage happened, and she was into drinking. We had like all these bottles of Jack Daniels, and I got wasted that night and did something stupid. And I had Sherry and Scott in the car in the Charger, and we were going around town. I'm 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving on the sidewalks and I'm whacking mailboxes, and I go down the road where our house is, and there was another party going on a couple houses down, and I'm at the end of the road, and I'm revving the car up, and I just let it go, and I'm squawking, and I'm acting like I'm going to try to hit them. And, I don't even remember what happened the rest of the night. I passed out eventually. So there was a lot of tension because of that. We messed with some other druggies and people on alcohol that night, and it was the next night we got challenged to a fight. We lived right across the street from a school. And so we got challenged, and we went out that next night behind the school. And first chain gang fight I've ever been. We had pool sticks and chains and everything else out there, and ended up getting hit a couple times with a chain. That didn't feel good.
I've seen one of those before. But if I recall, there's a lot of singing. That could have been like the West Side Story.
No singing.
No singing. Okay. A lot of dancing and singing, and no, none of that.
And then another time I was at a party with my car. I came out the next morning after the party, and my windshield was shattered in. Obviously I didn't go well with me, and we did it. Went up to the house, and I'm like, Scott, grab a pool stick, and we grabbed pool sticks and broke them, and we walked from where we were downtown, which was about a mile, with the pool sticks. This guy was living up, that supposedly did it, was living up above a cafe. So it's like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Cafe's full, and here's two dudes walking downtown with these pool sticks, and a cop actually came by, and he's like, "You guys go home right now." I said, "No, this dude messed with my car, and I'm going to get him." And we walked up the steps with these pool sticks and pounded on the door, and this other dude answered. I'm like, "Where's this dude?" I'm not gonna say his name. He's dead now anyway. Where's this dude? And Scott was getting smart with the guy, and the guy pushed Scott, and we're talking, probably 30 steps going up, and pushed Scott, and Scott fell down a ways, and pretty soon the cops came up, and they're like, "You guys go home right now, or we're arresting you." So we went home, and that's just how it was during this time. It's a whole lot of garbage move going on.
It seems like no purpose, no direction.
No, just drugs and trouble. Drugs and trouble. Didn't care in the world.
Yeah, just day by day, hour by hour, emotion by emotion.
Yeah. So we ended up moving out of that place and moved into a house right across the street from the courthouse in Chippewa and kitty corner from the police department. So we thought it was cool. We had all these drugs, selling drugs, and we're right, suckers, look what we're doing. Just being stupid criminals. And at that point, this is when I was kind of running out of money from the drugs, and we were running out of all the weed that we had grown. And so we went to Scott. Scott's like, "Hey, my dad has guns. Let's steal them and sell them." So we did, and guess where we sold them to? Yeah, the pawn shop. Not a bright idea. Oh, yeah. Well, no one said criminals were smart. So we stole a bunch of guns from his dad, sold them at the pawn shop. Not even 2 days later, the police came, got us, and that was my first arrest as an adult. We ended up with 10 days in jail and 2 years of probation. So now here's where things got really interesting. We moved to this trailer home in Eau Claire on Western Avenue, and I don't think we were there very long. And one day, this guy pulls in a 1969 Dodge Charger, orange, beautiful car, pulling a trailer with a Harley Davidson on the back of it. He gets out. He parks at 2 trailers from us, gets out, big biker dude, beard, just your typical looking biker dude. And I'm like, whoa, what's this? So me and Scott went over there and we started kicking with this guy. His name was BJ. Well, they called him BJ. And so here's where the stuff happened. BJ, obviously we didn't know this until everything was done, but BJ was he was a snitch for the feds. I think he was doing prison time, and they let him out of prison to be the setup guy. So one day he tells us, hey, because he knew we were into some stuff. Obviously we shared that, and he says, hey, you guys want to make some easy money? Come with me. He had this, one of them was a chainsaw, there was a stereo system, and a gun. He says, I'm going to show you how this is done. So we got in his car, and he drove downtown, went into this alley, and pulled up by this garage, honked his horn 3 times, and the garage door opened. He pulled in, and you got out in this garage, and there was a doorway, and you went through the doorway, and there was this counter with this big mirror stuff behind it. And he said, when we go in there, you pull the chainsaw and the gun and stereo out and bring it up there, and you haggle for some money. Don't take any less than $200. So we did. We got the money, came back out, and he's like, that's my, I don't know if it was he said it was his some kind of relation to him. He goes, but you guys can sell anything here and get money for it. Well, that started, what had happened is the feds came into Eau Claire in 1984, started 3 sting operations. One was for prostitution, one for drugs, one for a theft ring. I got caught up in the theft ring. Up to that point, I had never robbed a home in my life. But when we saw how easy that was, let me just say that this was supposed to go on for a year. It only went on 6 months because I guess some people were catching on. So 6 months later, it was November, and it was a Friday night because we were having a huge party, all kinds of juveniles at our house. By this time, we were living in what used to be a church, and we had the whole first floor and basement. And the basement was just, we had thousands of dope plants hanging, and this huge table with buds cut up on it was our drying room. I had aquariums upstairs. We were growing marijuana and tons of kids there, and we had alcohol all over the place and crack cocaine and the whole 9 yards. Saturday night was supposed to be a Rat concert, a Rat Billy Squire concert. So we were partying it up. Fast forward, Friday night partying, Saturday morning about 2 a.m, all heck broke loose. And we had, police department, sheriff's department, riot cops, feds, shotguns, riot gear, all up, and get up, and I'm sleeping naked with my wife. I'm like, what's going on here, and so they put me in the car and brought it. They had this whole thing set up at the police department in the garage where you went through these different processes, and I was trying to figure out what the heck is going on. What did I do? And so long story short, it was a sting operation we had got caught up in, and me and Scott were doing all these burglaries. And so in the end, I was looking at, I had over 100 charges, 14 federal indictments, 18 years old. And we found out it was a sting operation. They told us, me and Scott, that we had done 250 burglaries in that 6-month period. And I don't remember, it was like $50,000 in cash that they had given us in this shop. We went to the shop so much they wouldn't even hardly buy stuff from us anymore. We brought a yacht in there one time,
What?
A car, on top of stuff from houses and boat motors and everything else.
Wait, you said 250, and if it's 6 months, that's like 1.5 a day, 7 days a week.
We'd break into multiple homes a night, a couple times a week, and mostly we'd go for the guns. During that period, not only were we selling it there, but I was going to the biker bars and selling handguns to people for drugs. And
how much could you ballpark it? How much money did you make out of those 250 over 6 months? 10 grand, 100 grand?
I think it was 50,000. They said that was the restitution that we had to pay, plus all the the stuff I got from selling the guns and stuff on the side. But, one of the things they said to me, it didn't strike me until after I got saved, was, who do you think you were selling all these guns to? And for what purpose?
Well,
I don't know, for money. I don't care. like I
Yeah,
cared.
that's true.
You know?
Yeah, you don't really think about that stuff
No,
at the
not
time.
at all. No. So that was November 4th, 1983, is when it went down. So that was my first big arrest as an adult. I ended up helping them. They told me, they'd cut the charges down if I went with them and showed them all the places that I stole from them. Like I remember that,
Sleepers.
but I did the ones that I could. I helped them out. One of the things I never did during my life of crime is I never tried. Once I got busted, I didn't try to cop out of stuff and lie. And it's like, whatever, I did it, man.
Yeah.
Other than that one time in the car, I never got let off the hook for nothing. They always slammed me, but so I ended
250, homes.
Yeah.
I mean, just saying,
Right.
this
Yeah.
isn't like, get out of here. I mean,
So here I am. I'm 18, and I ended up with all the charges. I ended up with 9 years and 9 months in prison, and got some probation time and stuff like that. So 18 years old, I'm on my way to Green Bay Correctional Institution.
Oh,
and this
I
is
remember
where
that
I
place.
said, yeah. So remember when I said that when I was in Lincoln, they took us that
Scared
Scared
Straight.
Straight program, and I talked smack to these guys. So that was the only thing that went through my head. I was like, man, I hope these guys
Not
don't
Green Bay,
remember
not
me.
Green Bay, not Green Bay.
But
I mean, all my friends, just send me anywhere but
Yeah.
Green Bay.
I mean, you don't go there right away. Everybody goes to Dodge first, which is
Oh.
orientation, and you spend some months, well, maybe up to a year here now, but then it was just a couple, 3 months, and then they decide where to put you, and I ended up in Green Bay. So that's 17 to 18. I just wanted to focus on that.
Just it seems like we're slowing down here in our timelines because
Yeah.
you're going through
Yep.
so much at this time. But yeah, I mean, 18 years old, and you're looking at 9 years. Now, how does that work? You know that you're going to be doing all 9 years, or is it, well, if I do
No.
this and this, it'll be like 2?
Yeah, well, there's so many different laws that have been passed before then and since then.
Uh-huh.
At that time, you were supposed to do at least 2/3 of your time.
Oh, sure.
So
6 years.
yeah, so maybe 6 years or so, but we'll get into that. But I just wanted to focus on this. Believe me, it ain't to tell war stories. A lot of people that I know will tell you, they don't know anything about my past other than if they heard my testimony. I don't bring a lot of this up. It's not glorifying my past at all. I just want people to realize just how bad I was and how caught up in all this junk that I was. Because again, I think a lot of, especially maybe parents who have kids that are involved in this stuff, think there's no way out. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And one of the things that I wanted to really touch on today, as far as our takeaway today, was on identity. So when I go to schools, I talk about this too. If you watched all the other 2 episodes, we saw what this all started with, the cigarette. We saw that this started with some older kids accepting me. And up until that point, all I had ever heard from my dad after the beatdowns was, you're a loser, you're nobody, you're nothing, you're never going to amount to anything. Teachers said the same thing to me. Confirmation teachers said the same thing to me. Students would tell me that. And I heard this stuff so much that I think I ended up being what they told me.
Right.
I big time out
all
of
the
it.
time in schools when you're told, or from parents, hopefully not parents, but getting bullied or picked on, and you're told you're a loser, you're told you're maybe not smart. After a while, it's not just that you believe it, you just accept it, and you kind of own it.
You
and
own
then
it.
you start acting out based on what everybody thinks of me.
Yeah, you're defined. You allow yourself to be defined by what people tell you when you hear it so much. And that whole, really, it's satanic when people say, sticks and stones. That's bogus. Words define people. Words kill people, and words define my life. I ended up allowing what people said about me to define that next 33 years of my life. And I just became that loser. I became that nobody. I became somebody who was never going to amount to anything. Yeah. And praise the Lord. And it was the first time I brought him up, that, he got hold of me before I died. I mean, because when we met this BJ guy, this is when life-threatening situations came about. I mean, BJ had a gun to my friend Scott's head twice, threatening him because he thought maybe he was, doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing or telling or whatever. And, I'm just sitting here with my best friend getting a gun to his head, and I'm just smirking like, whatever. It ain't me, I don't care. And I just never saw the potential threat in the lifestyle. I think when you're young like that, you think you're immortal, and you just don't realize how dangerous that lifestyle is. I tell kids when I'm in school that even being in a bar or being at a party, whether you partake or not, puts you at risk of, injury or death. Somebody could just snap off. It happens all the time. Come in, start shooting or stabbing people up or whatever, man. Why would you put yourself at risk
to this
like
day,
that?
that's well, aside from the fact that, what they charge, I don't go to bars. I haven't been to a bar in like 15 years. And honestly, I don't even want to go. Like if a friend is going and says, hey, you want to stop down? I'm like, yeah, I'll stop down and say hi or something. I don't. And honestly, it's because, man, if someone has a beef with me, when I was a kid, it was, use your fist. Now everybody's got a gun. I'm like, nope. I know the odds of that happening are so slim, but like totally it's not worth it, man. Yeah. At all. So where, at any point, I just have 2 follow-ups here. God, so far, has he been on your brain at any point? Or was it I love doing this because, praise Satan and I hate God? Or was it that it just never even entered my mind whether that I felt him in my life or I was trying to hurt him or show him, I'll show you, God.
No, up to this point, there was none of that.
Nothing.
No, and even the Satanism, as far as that, I mean, other than having, satanic posters and stuff like that up in my room, just basically, it was rebellion. It was rebelliousness. I never really went, other than stealing from churches and the sacrament and that one time with the virgin girl on the altar, never really passed my mind.
And where was, at this point, you're heading to, you get sentenced 9 years. Yeah. Where's mom and dad? That's one thing that didn't get brought up in this discussion from 17 to 18. Where was mom and dad? You loved your mom. Yeah. She's always there. Did you talk to her during this time?
Well, yeah, during all the times I was locked up, mom definitely kept in touch with me. Every once in a while, she would visit wherever I was locked up at. The only time I remember having anything to do with dad was when I got that car the very first night when I came back from Minneapolis or St. Paul. When I first got the car, I took the car down to one of my favorite spots at Glenlock and Chippewa and went down to the boat landing with it, which is a dirt hill, and ended up getting stuck. And when I backed up, the tires started going into the water a little bit. So it was like 2 a.m. I called my dad because, he was a tree trimmer at the time. So he had tons of chains and ropes. And I'm like, hey, Dad, I got a car. Your brother gave me a car and I'm stuck down here. Can you come get me? And he actually did. But boy, did I hear about it.
Oh, sure. Was he proud of you?
He came and pulled me out.
When he heard about you get this car, and then you, at the time, going into, I'm sorry, not proud of you going to prison, but at the very beginning, going into the Army, was it, maybe not proud, but did you feel this sense of, maybe even he was thinking, well, hopefully that'll get him straightened out? Or was there any kind of feedback when you told him, I'm going into the Army?
No.
Oh. Yeah.
No. At this time, the relationship with my father at this time was, I will never be able to have a right relationship because my dad was a big man and, I was just a punk kid and I could never defend myself. And my mindset at an early age was I will never be right with my dad until I grow up and I'm old enough to defend myself and we go fisticuffs and we handle this.
Got it. All right. So next episode, obviously, I'm sure we're going to be talking about your time. I don't know how much we want to get into that. Is that kind of the episode 4 is going to be your? How long did you end up spending in prison this first time? Was it the 6 years out of the 9?
No, I ended up doing 9 years and 9 months, and we'll talk about that. But what I'll cover is that time in Green Bay and until my next charge in 1996 when probably the worst crime that I did happen when I tried to take another man's life.
I'm kind of really excited for this last episode when we get to it, right? Where the I Found God episode.
And we're going to cover a few episodes after that, too, about what the Lord's been doing in my life. And,
amen, brother.
To go from this guy who's talking about all this stuff he did to the way the Lord has been using me and my family ever since, man. I could just go months and months and months of talking about all the things he's done in my life since then.
Well, and that's why we didn't put really a limit on these. We figured around low end, maybe 8, could be 12, but don't know. We don't know how many episodes we're going to do. We're going to keep doing until we're finished. So
in this week we're taking a break, right? Because I'm going to be down in West Bend this weekend, and then going to Texas this week
Yeah,
for the
right.
International Gideon's Convention.
That's right. So we'll have a break between our episode 3 and 4, between this one and the next one, and we'll pick it back up in a couple of weeks.
Amen. Thank you,
Brian,
brother.
Thank you so much.